all these failures, I want you to remember you are standing on our failure, because in those days we were not able to speak. But today we have the freedom of speech. Let us respect each other. Mr. Speaker, I will say this. Not a generation sets out its agendas and their objectives, and they finally achieve it in the life history of human beings. One generation will achieve what they have set out only to perhaps half or three quarters. But the rest are supposed to be for the younger generations coming to achieve. And that is why I said the older generations need the Genz, and at the same time, the older generations needs, the older generations have said needs the Genz, but the younger generations needs the older generations. And then order. Such that I would conclude on this and say, in my considered opinion, and please entitle me to it, when I look at the panelists, I don't see any of them that squarely meets the standards that we are looking for, basing my argument on the elections that we have had as a country before.
3 minutes, watu ni wengi. Sasa tupatie Chira.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to all Bunge members. Mr. Speaker, I want to indulge you to suffer me 5 minutes instead of 3.
So by 26, because you hardly speak here, yes, so by 26.
Tap me when it is 4.5 minutes.
Okay, sir.
Then I will wind up.
Because you hardly...
Yes, I hardly talk here.
Okay.
For those struggling to get to know my name is Chira Mishael. I'm a member of Bunge la Mwananchi. I have taken my time to listen, Mr. Speaker. And like I said yesterday, elections are not an event. They are a process. What we are doing right now is part of that process, or that which should constitute that process. I said yesterday, our undoing as the citizens of this country and as voters is that we are always emotional. We're emotional to the extent that we are the only country in East Africa that does politics from election to election. And we campaign from one election to another election. And that derails our development. And sometimes we are prevented from seeing what individuals can do that can make a contribution toward our development as a country. I look at the process of selection of IEBC chairpersons, and I think I want to correct the speaker that was here before Ochieng when he says things that are not true about the Constitution. And the Constitution, we all read it, but sometimes our interpretations may go haywire, because there is nowhere where in law the prerogative of announcing the winner of the presidential election is squarely on an individual called the chairperson. That is what has landed us where we are, because they have arrogated themselves duties that are not spelled out in the Constitution, not even found in the Elections Act. That is what one Chebukati did, and we saw it. If you tell me that what is in NADOC report that clearly indicates that going forward for our elections, the chairman of IEBC cannot announce the winner of an election only until he has consulted and they have reached a consensus, then why do we then need the rest of the 6 commissioners? That is a recipe for a disaster for another election. And I would not mind to repeat the same things Kriegler told us in 2008, that unless we fix our problems of elections and our processes for election, we are going to just have our elections turning out to be like parties on the eve of Christmas. I want to face Bunge la Mwananchi. I have said this before. If you have heard me, if you have not heard me, I want you to hear me. But I'm sure that the country will be watching this. Please hear me out on this. The people that can bring change and meaningful change to this country are not parliamentarians that we have today, are not the crop of politicians that we have today. Very few of them can. But when I look at Bunge la Mwananchi, because I've been here long enough to know some things. Jim Reeves sings and says 7 days can be a long, long time, my friend, when you think about over change. But if you look at it, even the Genz's, and I stood here someday during Genz's time and I asked them that you guys are going to fizzle out very soon. I had some members here that are senior lying to them that they were not going to fizzle out. Allow me to be on this. And I said, why? In the process of fighting for democratic space in this country that we today enjoy, the members that fought, and we can mention them and we know them, the likes of Senior Counsel Paul Muite, the likes of Senior Counsel Kiraitu Murungi, the likes of Senior Counsel Gitobu Imanyara, Raila Amolo Odinga, Orengo Senior Counsel, we had Abuya Buya, we had so many of them, we can mention them. They never hid their faces. We saw recently when one Sifuna died, Lawrence Sifuna died, and we were reminded of the 7 bearded brothers. They dared to show their faces. But Genz, of course, we must applaud them. But when you do not show your face, when you become leaderless, when you become planless, then what happens at the end of the day? When they showed their faces, no one could touch them. And I dare say this, and I will repeat it, that now when Genz can tell us that we, the oldies, are failures, I want you to remember you are standing on our failure, because in those days we were not able to speak. But today we have the freedom of speech. Let us respect each other. Mr. Speaker, I will say this. Not a generation sets out its agendas and their objectives, and they finally achieve it in the life history of human beings. One generation will achieve what they have set out only to perhaps half or 3/4. But the rest are supposed to be for the younger generations coming to achieve. And that is why I said the older generations need the Genz's, and at the same time, the older generations needs, the older generations have said needs the Genz's, but the younger generations needs the older generations. And then such that I would conclude on this and say, in my considered opinion, and please entitle me to it, when I look at the panelists, I don't see any of them that squarely meets the standards that we are looking for, basing my argument on the elections that we have had as a country before. How I wish that maybe something can happen, but maybe if they give us, let us also air out our views. I want to air this. I've heard people talk about the Mount Kenya tour of the president. I remember there was a time in this country when the one Dr. Robert Ouko died, and people said that Moi should not go where for that burial. I can tell you, I also checked the NIS report. In fact, Nordin Haji and one General Kariri have spoken and have given a warning. I want you to know we can do our politics, we can do our games, but we cannot do our games with the intelligence community, whether here or outside of the territories. And sometimes, Mr. Speaker, I think where we do not get it right is we localize our politics far too much. Some of the talks that I've had many times and even here sounds to me like what I watched in Commando. There is this guy that comes and tells, is called Bennett. So Bennett They have captured John. They have captured one John Matrix who is Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then when they have captured him, the guy tells him to go to kill the daughter because they are holding the daughter in custody. But he looks at him and he tells this guy that, listen to me, I look at your soldiers and I laugh at them because they are peasant soldiers. Matrix and I can finish them within 1 minute. And he told him, wait, when Matrix comes here, they will all be dead. Indeed, when Matrix arrived, he did a perfect job within a short while, and the only obstacle standing between him and that guy was now only who? Bennett. Sometimes let us have our politics to mature. Sometimes let us know when to do propaganda and when to heckle and when not to heckle. I will repeat this, Mr. Speaker. I said yesterday, in this country and in any country, there at any one point can only be one president. And I will say this, it will annoy you. Please get annoyed. Tomorrow we will be friends. Ruto is not your problem, because Ruto will only be there for 10 years. Uhuru was there for 10 years. Kibaki was there for 10 years. Moi was there for 24 years. We already fixed this. Why am I saying that? Your problem lies in two places. The two houses of parliament. That is where your problem lies. The other place your problem lies, and I will explain shortly why, is the judiciary. We should instead concentrate and march to that place as Kenyans and eject the woman who took us back from where one Maraga left us. She failed us. And I'm not saying this because she's a woman. There are better women in this country who can head that department and who can head that branch of government. But why do I turn my attention to the two houses of parliament? Because laws are made there. Finance bill is not made at State House. Finance bill is made where? So why are we directing our efforts to the wrong place? Because if we had functional and upright-minded individuals in the August House, they will have any bill coming from the president and tell the president, hey, Mr. President, we cannot go with this. It is not possible. Why do I say that? Look at the United States of America. I want to digress a little bit and say this. Because we localize our politics, we do not see how democracies mature and how they do their politics elsewhere. Look at the United States of America, that we borrowed their constitution almost 90%. How do they do their politics? The president today sitting there is one Donald Trump. The ruling party is the Republican. But are you aware that members of parliament do not pledge allegiance to the president? They pledge allegiance to the Constitution and the people of the United States of America, such that if today Trump shows up with stupid policies and foolish policies, the first people to complain are not the Democrats. They are the Republicans. And that is what they do. We need to mature. I look at us, we are busy pointing, accusing fingers on Ruto. Yes, we can do it. But how safe are we? We are not safe. We are the most messed up group here, led by people who do propaganda, and we are going for our elections, but we mess up our elections. I can forgive Chebukati for messing up elections that were meant for tens of millions in this country. But how can I forgive people who mess up in little capacities like this? We want to cast our accusing finger on somewhere. But hey, what did Christ say? Before you remove the log, the speck in your brother's eyes, look at your log that is in your eyes. Mr. Speaker, I want to conclude. I say sorry. No problem. But I want to conclude and say this. There is a simmering tension between two communities in this country. It is all foolishness. If you have been part of it, I dare you and I dare tell you, God only knows us and describes us in two ways. There is nothing in God's vocabulary like clever or stupid. We are either fools or we are either wise before God. Choose where you are. Where do you belong? When two tribes, the Luyas and the Luos, are fighting all by a fool called Salasia, whose history we know, that even the morning, the night waking up yesterday was also roughed up and beaten in Kiambu in a club. Was now that Luos that were fighting him? I think let us not come here to be used wrongly to sanitize wrong things. I've always maintained, let people bear their crosses. The same does not even have respect for the dead. He has been beating people left, right, and center. The Luos and Luyas, you know you have lived together. And you have a match, the Mashemeji Derby, on Sunday. Avoid the shrieking like those of a shrieking bush baby from Salasia. Face yourselves. That is not a political rally. If Salasia wants a political rally to incite people, let him find one. Go there, enjoy. But as you enjoy, understand this. Tomorrow, there is a country for us. Tomorrow, you still remain the neighbors. I have just singled out these two tribes, and I'm talking about them. Not that we don't live with others. We are married to Kikuyus. Kikuyus are married to us. We are married to Kambas. Kambas are married to Turkanas. We must know God only bequeathed us one country called the Republic of Kenya. I want to echo this. When one man was asked, when America was making their constitution, when he was asked by a woman who was waiting out at Pennsylvania, asked him, what do you finally have for us? And he dared say, we have. He said, do you have a monarchy like the one we have run from in Europe, in the United Kingdom, or do you have for us something else? And he said this, we have a republic, but if we can keep it. Kenyans, we have the Republic of Kenya that transcends all of us. Let us endeavor to keep it. After election, we are still brothers. After election, we are still here. May God bless us and may God bless Kenya. Even as I congratulate Ada and Duale, do your work and the rest that are coming. Thank you.
Thank you, Chira. Thank you, Chira.